welcome back to Venison Kingdom Network. My name is Taryn Starr, and I am going to be covering a story for you. So this is a really interesting thing that popped up that honestly, I don't think we've seen enough coverage on. So Donald Trump, before he was elected president, while he was on the campaign trail, made a really big claim. This happened in September, so it was a couple months directly before the actual election, but he was in Indiana on a stage, and I'm going to also post the link to the actual video where he makes this statement below. And he said this: "We will get rid of the Department of Education in the federal government." And everybody started cheering. So now that he's actually elected president, there was a senator who actually put a bill forward, and the name of the bill was the Returning Education to the States Act. And the purpose of this bill was to abolish the Department of Education. So we're going to talk about what does this mean for you, and actually, after having read through the bill, what is it actually going to do? So let's get into that really quickly. So I'm not going to reference a whole lot of other people's responses to this because I really think that I want to keep this as factual as possible. I read through the entirety of this bill. What will it actually do? Well, to short answer a few questions for you, is it going to cause problems for your state institutions? The answer to that is yes and no. The reason I say that is because it means federal funding that's going to institutions will essentially shut down or be changed as a result of shutting down the Department of Education. So what does that mean? It means that your colleges, it means that your public schools, it means that any school that receives money from the government is either no longer going to receive that money, or they are, just from a different department. So let's talk about what that actually is going to look at. After I read through the entirety of this bill, I think the number one most shocking thing to me was the lack of things that were abolished. The biggest things that is abolished is essentially the department name itself. But they literally took every single good part of the Department of Education, all the things that it does. So we're talking about higher education, federal Pell Grants. When I went to college, I had a Pell Grant. The loans, like loans that go to Family Education Loan Program, the William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program, the Federal Perkins Loans Program, all of those programs plus more. If you want to look at the actual bill, we'll link that as well. But all of these programs are literally just being moved. So they're all still funded, they're all still paying. They're, instead of being under the Department of Education, they're just being shifted over to be under the Department of Treasury, which no way, they deal with money. Maybe they should go under the Department of Treasury. So to me, honestly, it doesn't seem like such a bad thing. And at the end of the day, after reading through the entirety of this bill, there's two places that some of the education departments go. So if there's a specific part or program that the Department of Education was dealing with that had to do with money, basically that department is being moved under the Department of Treasury. And if there is something listed under the Department of Education that deals with more like humanitarian issues, for example, like a family technical assistance program or something that has to do with the impact of children in different areas, all of those programs are literally being moved to the Department of there's one of two, either the Department of Interior or the Department of Health and Human Services. So basically, what this is actually doing is just moving, moving a lot of pieces. But you want to know what that's going to do for our government? It's going to become more efficient, have less extra employees that we don't need, and literally just move all of those great programs that we want to keep under the departments they probably should have been under when they were first enacted, without having to create an entirely new system. But I do want to leave you with a few thoughts. Number one, if you live in a state, you're not really going to be directly impacted by this. It's the schools that are going to be impacted. However, the reality is the impact is going to be small. It's going to make our government more efficient. It's going to make at the federal level a little bit less involved with the state's decisions around schooling. And it'll also mean that that state can set all its own procedures around schooling itself. And to be honest, it doesn't really strike me as a very bad thing. It seems overall like the overall impact that this is going to have seems to be quite small, even though at the end of the day, the Department of Education was quite large. And I actually appreciate that we can get rid of an entire department and keep everything running. So let us know what you think. If you agree, disagree, feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, as always, like, comment, subscribe on this video. If you'd like to see more of Benison Kingdom Network's information, follow them. And if you want to see more of me, follow me at terrencestar.official. Would love to hear from you. And yeah, love y'all. See you next time. We're going to call that a wrap.